The latest on the Republican tax overhaul, all times local. 9:30 p.m. The IRS says taxpayers could begin seeing less money withheld from their paychecks as early as February if Congress passes a Republican tax overhaul plan this month. The agency says in a statement released Wednesday night that it is continuing to closely monitor the pending legislation in Congress, and taking the initial steps to prepare guidance on withholding for 2018. Sign up today for a free 30-day free trial of unlimited digital access. The IRS says it expects to issue new withholding guidance in January reflecting the new legislation. The bill would provide generous tax cuts for corporations and the wealthiest Americans. Middle and low-income families would get smaller tax cuts, though President Donald Trump and GOP leaders have billed the package as a huge benefit for the middle class. __.6 p.m. Congressional aides say negotiators have removed several controversial provisions from sweeping tax legislation, including one that would have eliminated the deduction for interest on student loans and another deduction for medical expenses. Two congressional aides also say the bill will no longer start taxing graduate school tuition waivers. The aides spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to publicly discuss private negotiations. GOP leaders in the House and Senate have reached an agreement in principle on the biggest rewrite of the nation's tax laws in more than 30 years, though the legislation is still being finalized Wednesday. Advocacy groups have complained about the provisions that were removed, especially with college graduates face mounting debt from student loans. Stephen Olamacher __. 3:50 p.m. Federal Reserve Chair Janet Yellen says she and her colleagues expect a modest lift to economic growth from the tax cuts being proposed by President Donald Trump and Republican lawmakers. Yellen said at a news conference the likelihood of lower taxes is why Fed officials expect the economy to grow at 2.5% in 2018. But growth would then slip back closer to its recent 2% average. She says the potential for greater consumer spending and capital investments from tax cuts has been reflected in part by rising stock prices. Yellen cautions, however, that there is considerable uncertainty about the impact of the tax cuts, which are estimated to add at least $1 trillion to the national debt over the next decade. She notes that any wage growth would likely stem from the low unemployment rate, rather than the tax cuts. __.3, 24 p.m. President Donald Trump is explaining how the tax overhaul plan working its way through Congress would cut tax bills for middle-class families. Speaking in the grand foyer of the White House, Trump called on members of 5 families joining him to talk about how exactly the tax plan would help them. The families say they'll use their tax savings to do home renovations, pay college tuition, and help other people. The president is trying to counter concerns that the tax plan will primarily benefit the rich. Trump says that if Congress finishes the tax bill before Christmas, the IRS has confirmed that Americans will see lower taxes and bigger paychecks beginning in February.